I'm gonna upload later this video. So let me just quit this. Yes. So that we can move forward. So I have QuickTime recording. I'm gonna upload the video later. Cool. So we saw the request body, and we saw that data can travel. Let's look at how that data looks like. So I'm gonna go here back to the Twitter example. This is the request, and here I have this form data, right? If you're on Firefox, this might be a little bit different, but this is Chrome like parsing this data for me and giving me sort of key value pairs, right? You see like this sort of like a key and a value, but this is like Chrome being really nice. What this data really looks like is like this: view source. I clicked on view source, and then it looks like this. These are all sort of like jumbled together like that. And you know, we can still see password says here, and then 123, that's my password. User email 62 class. So we can still tell the information. And this is what is known as URL encoded. So this data is being encoded. So for instance, you remember when we did like %sign 2F for a slash, and we did 2B for a plus, I think. So what happens is the browser and the JavaScript running on this page is going to take all that data and is going to encode it so that it looks like this, right? So this is what is known as URL encoded. So let's look at here at the request headers, and we should see some content types. So here, you see this is the headers. You guys remember the headers of the request that it has like extra information about the request. We can see what kind of encoding it has, or what type of content we have. And it turns out that this information in this format that we see down here, like all jumbled together, where the special symbols are replaced with % something, is known as application / xwww-form -URL encoding. So information that we send in the request body can be in a few different formats. This is one of them. This is known as URL encoded, right? So let's look at how would we handle this in our Express application or server. So for doing that, we are going to need, well, we need something that can interpret this, that can decode this, right? For doing that, Express doesn't come with that built in. It used to come with it built in, but now they outsource that to a separate module. Then we can import. So I'm not sure what should we do first. We should do. So let me show you in Postman. Let me just see if I had anything else here. So I'm gonna go in Postman, and I'm going to go. Let's close all this. No save. I'm gonna create a request. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna create a post request. HTTP localhost 3000. Let's say, imagine we have a login, which we don't have yet. No, so I can send this data, and we don't have, my server doesn't have a route /login, therefore I get this error. But we can see, and then let me show you what this request looks like in here. So if we look at the request that we just made, if we could look at it raw, we will see this text. You know, it has the method, it has the URL, it has the host where the request is going, and it has a bunch of other information. Now let's look at how would we send the data in the request body with Postman. With Postman, we'll go here to body. And here we have a few different ways in which we can send data. This is like form data, XWWW form URL encoded, raw, binary, GraphQL, which is another thing. But here we saw that the data that we were sending earlier was URL encoded. So let's pick this one. This is the type, the content type of our body data. And then here I'm going to say like username, label4373, password, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm doing this in Postman so that this information gets sent in the request body. And I want to show you what that request body looks like in Postman. It's very similar to what it looked like in the browser when we inspected the Twitter login request. So I'm going to hit send, and my server is going to fail because I don't have this route, right? But I could inspect what the request looks like here if I hit on code and I select here HTTP, which is the default. I note here that we have the request headers. So the request is like divided into two. The request is divided into two and response is two. One part is the headers, and the other one is the body. And you know when you have a response, like requests or HTTP messages are always like divided in these two. You have the headers and the body. A GET request has headers, but a GET request doesn't have body. Post requests most commonly will have headers. Basically, all of them have headers, and the post request will have some body. So, and these two are separated. This is, you know, if you read the HTTP standard, it says the headers and the body must be separated by an empty line. And that is exactly what we see here. You see this empty line here? This empty line, line 13, says where the headers end and where the body starts. So know that in here, all these are all the headers. The headers and then the body. Look at what my body looks like. It looks username equal Alejo4373 and password equal 1, 2, 3, and 4, or ampersand. Let's see how they're actually URL encoded. Let's say if we have like an email, gmail.com. Let's hit code. You see now that the @ symbol was replaced by %40. So this is just to see that this information is being encoded by Postman, right? Even though I have an email here, this symbol, the @ symbol, it's a special character and must be encoded. If I have let's say what other characters now this makes sense. So let's do this, and we have this. Now we could send this data to our server. Let's imagine we log in instead of the username, like the email. Send that. My server is not prepared to handle that, but if I inspect the code like this HTTP request raw, this is what I get. So the information is going to travel in this fashion, in URL encoded. And the server needs to decode this information, right? Like this is harder to understand. It's not too hard, but it is harder. So let's look at how would we handle that in Express. So let's open up terminal. I'm going to do it in the same server. Let me get rid of this. I'm going to have here in my same API, I'm going to do app post login / login. I'll do rec res, just like all the others. And then I'm going to say res.send like temp login at /login. So let's see this. I have a simple route. It's going to be listening for post requests at this endpoint. And to those post requests is going to reply with a temp login at /login. So let's see what happens once I retry this here. Hit and enter. Now our server is replying. So at least we're handling the route now. We have a route handler that will reply with this message. But how do we get this data? Because you actually want to log in the user. So as I said, the Express on its own cannot parse this data, so we need an external module. But before that, let's see if we console log the request. Maybe we can find it there in its raw form. So I'm going to console log the request as we listen for a post request to /login. So I'm going to hit send. Let me show you. This is the terminal where the backend is running. We have this. I'm going to hit enter here to make that request. And we should see a giant object, the request object, being logged to the terminal. This is the request object. It's quite big. Now, in this object somewhere, I hope, is my information. I think in your terminals, I think you could do Command F. I think I can in mine. And then search. I'm going to search for Alejo 4373. Oh, actually, we don't have any results. Let's try 1, 2, 3, 4. Say that again? Oh, like email? Email? Nope, it's not finding it. So, as of right now, our Express server doesn't know what to do if it receives request. If it receives a request body or data in the request body, right? I would expect it to have, but for some reason, the developers of Express decided not to include that in here. And then they decided to create another module that will help you access this request body data. So let's look at that next. So for accessing the request body data, I'm still not convinced. Query, login. Maybe it's under one of these that we cannot really see. Anyway, just go to the point. So I'm going to kill my server. I kill my server, and I said we need to install another module that is going to help us parse the body. Guess how that module is called? Npm Install Body-Parser. In the same folder that I have my server with my package.json, I'm going to install this other module called the body parser. As its name indicates, it's going to parse the body. Hit enter, let it install. Now, if we take a look at my package.json, now my app depends on two modules, on two third-party modules. It depends on Express, and it depends on the packet on the body parser. So I did npm install body-parser. Then that added the body parser to my dependencies. And we just need to use the body parser. Was everyone able to install the body parser?
I got a message that says new minor version of npm install.
Oh, that is just npm saying there is a new version. Do you want to update? Yeah, you can update later. It's fine. That's not really an error. Just more of like a warning or a notice. Cool. So once you have that, then you need to make sure that your server uses the body parser. So I'm gonna import here or require body parser equal require body parser. And then actually I'm gonna look up the documentation because I forgot how to do this. npmjs.com body parser. It says that the body parser is Node.js body parser middleware. Parse incoming request bodies in the middleware before your handlers, available under the request.body property. Cool, let's just look at this. So for using this, we need to require it. We did this. And then usage. Body parser, I think is this app.use. Yeah, so it's just like this. Yes? App.post? Yeah, this one. So for using the body parser, we just need to do app.use. We call the body parser function called URL encoded. And to this, we pass in an object. Actually, for our purposes, we should just leave it there, like that. I hope. Let's see. So you see, it says this was going to parse this kind of request body. It's going to parse www.x.www form URL encoded. So let's look at this. Once we have this, I think we should be all set. Remember to require and then use it in this fashion. You call the URL encoded function of the body parser object. And you pass that to app.use. So I'm going to go to Postman here. And then in the documentation of the body parser, it says that the body will be available under something called rec.body. See? All middlewares will populate the rec.body property with the parse body. So I'm going to do one more thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to console log rec.body. Rec.body. Just prefix it with this string so that we know that that's the rec.body. And do rec.body here. So my login just has a console log rec.body. res.send attental login /login. Go to Postman. What happened with the URL? Oh, there you go. So we have a post to this URL. This is the data that we're going to be sending. Let's look at it one more time as raw code. This is what that is going to look like. What body parser is going to do on Express is interpret this string here for us. And we're going to see what that is going to look like thanks to the body parser. So this is what the request is going to be looking like. I'm going to open up the terminal here next to it. I'm going to run the server, nodemon server. We have the server running. And then I got this warning saying body parser deprecated, undefined, extended, provide extended option. So that is the body parser warning me that I should have included the object. So let's just do that. I'm going to go back here. The body parser is warning me that I should specify here passing an object with extended false. To the URL encoded function, you must pass an object with one property, extended, whose value is false. Now my server shouldn't complain. Let's run that again. We don't have the warning. Yes, Amin? You guys will need to read about it. I don't want to get into it. The documentation explains it. And yeah, if you have any additional questions, I can answer that. Cool. So we have this. Everyone has their server running. Are you gonna console log the rec.body on login? On the /login? So let's see. I'm gonna move this here, and then with Postman /login, this make sure that you have xwww-form-url encoded, and then hit send. I hit enter here, and I got my request body. See, now I have request body is this object with two properties. See, my email with the @ symbol and my password. Let me move this up so that it's only like in one place. I'll move this from here, put it here. This is the code that we just made, that we added. Yes, go ahead. Postman? Raise your hand if you were able to see your body, request body. Cool. Let's give it some time for those that haven't seen it. Not post. Slash. Maybe you gotta think this slash plugin here. Oh. Cool. So questions or comments on handling the request body. Let's see what happens if I do, like, I comment the body parsing and I comment this. You know, like, what would happen if we try to see reg.body without having a tool that will parse it? So I'm gonna send this request, and I commented out like the 4 lines that we added, and I hit enter. Then I'm gonna go to the terminal, and then we have that the reg.body is undefined. The reg.body is undefined because the body property of the request object gets populated by the body parser module. If you don't have the body parser module, then you don't have access to the request body. The body parser module is the one that is doing the magic here for turning in whatever you specify as body data onto this nice looking object. So I uncomment that. Let's retry the request. Hit enter, and we have this. So note that this information is not traveling in query parameters, is not traveling in URL parameters, it's traveling in the request body down here, not in the URLs, like here. Yes, you will. Yeah, we can ignore that for now. Yeah, like what we are mostly interested in is the content here. Cool. So then let's say something more interesting here. Let's say something like, let's imagine this was a request, a successful request, and let's do something like res.send welcome, welcome reg.body.email, so that we greet the user that just logged in. Right? And in this case, it's going to be like welcome whatever email you specify. You know, I'm sending this data. So if we do this, I'm going to hit enter. Now it says welcome all together, and the name that you specify. Whatever you specify here, that travels in the body. We see it here. Let's do like welcome. So for accessing the request body, you will need a body parser module that takes care of converting that URL encoded information into a JavaScript object that then is made available for you to use under the body property of the request object. Questions, comments, or concerns? You got welcome undefined. Then that means that you have probably reg.body.email in here, and you're not sending an email key value pair here in the X form URL encoded. Oh yeah, make sure that you have this in body in here. This params is to specify query params. This body is for the request body. So all this information, is more sensitive information. If we're making a post, like let's say you're making a Facebook post, that information might not necessarily be sensitive information, but it's going to be a large amount. You probably have a photo, some text that will be sent in a post request in the body of that request. So let's see what else. That's the most part. We just need some of that. How do we handle that in Express? The body parser, then you can see request body. We could also add like a route for adding a dog, but which we basically did here, but with login. And note this also, like a post request body is never cached, which means like nothing will remember it. Some of the, when you get a 301, is it 301? No, not modified. 304 means that you made a network request and the resource at that URL has not changed. You were just giving back the copy that was saved for you to use later, or was cached. But post requests are never cached because every time you make a network request, this information might change. So it's not safe to remember it and have it cached. This post request, if we're making this from the browser, is not going to be in our browser history, right? If you think about it, what is saved on your browser history are actually the requests. I think all of them are GET requests that you make by typing a URL and hitting enter. Like, where is my history? So all of these are all GET requests that my browser remembers for me, so that I don't have to, like remember the full URL. For instance, if I want to go to Canvas, the browser is like reading my history and giving me this option because it sees that these options are in my history. Right? But all of these are GET requests. When you hit enter in a browser bar, that is a GET request. Post requests are made with forms, as we saw in Twitter or a Postman, and they are not added to any history. You cannot bookmark it, right? Like when you bookmark something, let's bookmark this. I bookmark this URL, but this URL is a GET request, not a post request. And there is no restriction on the body length. That can be as big as you want. Like when you're uploading a video to YouTube or to any other platform, you're making a post request, and the body of that post request is not actually like strings like this, like in this case. It's going to be like raw binary data that goes in uploading chunks of your video or your photo. I think that's about it. Some methods. So get requests are not supposed to have a request body, because they're used for getting information, not for adding or sending information. They're used for getting information. Delete method shouldn't be used with a request body. Post basically the ones that use request body are post, put, patch, and to see if there's malware. HTTP methods. Oh, let's do this. I think I Googled this yesterday. HTTP methods. Which HTTP methods require a body? Let's look at this. I looked at this yesterday. Yeah, this is also taken from the standard, from the RFC net. This says a message body must not be included when the specification of the request method does not allow sending an entity body. For instance, an entity body, which is basically a request body, is explicitly forbidden in a trace request. This is something else that we're actually not going to get to see. There is another method called trace. All other request types are unrestricted. So basically, a GET request can have a body, and a delayed request can have a body according to the standard. But they just don't need it. And you shouldn't send a GET request with a body. Most servers will just ignore the body data because they don't expect a GET request containing a body. Safe, it is for those three, post, put, and patch, to have request bodies. Yes?
If you do like a search with a search box, the search becomes a body?
In Craigslist, I think the search becomes a query parameter. Let's see. Let's do for sale. And I'm interested in a chair. Yeah, so you see here, what I typed in here became something called query equal chair. Some of them are like that. Some of them, this information will travel actually in the body. Trying to see, I think Google works with query parameters. Type in hello. Yeah, it's like here, you can see there's a query parameter q equal hello. Yeah, most advanced searches will have the search content in the body. Cool, so that is it for today. Please fill out the exit ticket, and then let's work on this lecture's lab, that is to exercise everything we saw today. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to be around. JR is going to be around. Thanks.